Hello everyone, Irish Warlock here, and welcome. It's nearly the most important time of the year. Yes, N7 Day. The celebration of all things Mass Effect. And with Mass Effect 5 now being the only game that BioWare is working on, there is a good chance we could get some news on the series' future entry fairly soon. And I thought since there's a good chance we'll get some information this week, now might be a good time to go through everything we know about Mass Effect 5, which is a mixture of a little bit of official news, some hints, a couple of leaks, and a fair amount of guesswork. Starting off, let's go through the previous N7 days. Mass Effect 5 was confirmed on N7 Day 2020, with a teaser trailer released just a month later. This trailer strongly suggested that the new Mass Effect 5 would be more of a sequel to the original trilogy than Andromeda. This is due to the fact that it looks like we'll be returning to the Milky Way galaxy. We can see shots of destroyed Reapers and the return of Liara to Sony. Although the trailer and other sources have hinted that this game will be as much a sequel to Andromeda as it is the original trilogy. So it seems that Mass Effect 5 isn't a reboot of the franchise, but more a sequel to both aspects of the franchise. On N7 Day 2022, BioWare confirmed several members of Mass Effect 5's dev team, which included BioWare veterans Mike Gamble, Parrish Lee, and Dusty Everman. However, due to EA's mass layoffs over the years, none of the original trilogy's writers are part of Mass Effect 5. Also, back in 2022, BioWare showed off several pieces of concept art for Mass Effect 5. Each piece of art was accompanied by an encrypted audio file. This audio file once again featured Liara, this time talking to an unknown person, but we'll get onto that audio file a little bit later on. And finally, on N7 Day 2023, we got this iconic trailer alongside a poster showing off a new character, who is most likely going to be the game's new hero. Now, before we go any further, I'm going to briefly talk about the title of Mass Effect 5. When the game was first announced, many people online were calling it Mass Effect 4, refusing to acknowledge Andromeda and the possibility that this game could be still linked to it. However, delving into the data of the trailers, you can see that BioWare are referring to this game as Mass Effect 5. Now, whether that's the final name or just a placeholder, we don't know, but BioWare do consider this to be the 5th Mass Effect game. Now, while these teasers and announcements from previous N7 days don't add up to much, we have got other bits of information from company statements, tweets, and some blog posts. We do know that Mass Effect 5 is going to be a completely single-player game, which I don't think is a big surprise, and that it's going to run on Unreal Engine 5. Unreal Engine 5 was created by Epic Games, and Unreal Engine 3 was used for the original 3 Mass Effect games, while Andromeda was made off EA's Frostbite engine. Other games made in Unreal Engine 5 include the recent Halo campaign Evolved, Black Myth Wukong, Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, and the upcoming Witcher 4 and Witcher 1 remake. As for gameplay style, industry insider Jeff Grubb has reported that Mass Effect 5 will move away from the more open world experience that we saw in Andromeda and would return to the format that was seen in the original trilogy, which for myself and I imagine a lot of other people is very, very good news. But whether this means Mass Effect 5 will play exactly like those games, or we could see the return of the class system, we don't know. But I do hope that's the case, because I do think the class system was sorely missed in Andromeda. Alongside this, Mike Gamble has stated that Mass Effect 5 will have mature tones, which is also kind of a given, and that it will be more photorealistic when compared to other BioWare games. As for the game's setting, as I've already stated, it looks like we will be returning to the Milky Way galaxy, either partially or entirely, and there have been some leaks to suggest that we will be looking at a bit of a time jump of around 600 years or so. Oddly, 600 years is how much time has passed between the ending of Mass Effect 3 and the events of Mass Effect Andromeda, possibly lending some weight to the idea that Mass Effect 5 will bridge both settings. This 600-year remark came from Game Informer, who supposedly got it from a BioWare dev, but this hasn't been confirmed, denied, or even addressed by anyone. So it could be incorrect news, or it could have changed since this statement was made. If this is true, however, it could mean that only a few characters that possess the ability to live for long periods of time could return. Characters like Liara, Rex, Grunt, and possibly EDI. Now, the connection to Mass Effect Andromeda and the time jump has been backed up in some of the teasers. First, there's the 2020 trailer, where at the start we can see both the Milky Way and the Andromeda galaxy. This is something that Gamble confirmed was intentional. While in the 2023 teaser, references are made to the year 2819, the year that Mass Effect Andromeda takes place, and the trailer also uses music from both the original trilogy and Andromeda. Alongside these teases and leaks, we have a lot of concept art as well that links both the original trilogy and Andromeda. This shot looks a lot like Ilum from Mass Effect 2, but does have some signage from Andromeda. And then we have this shot here, which has a massive alien structure, with the architecture resembling both the Protheans and a Remnant. So which one it's a reference to we don't know, but the possibility is there. Next we have this shot here, which shows the team standing outside of a ship. One of the members definitely looks like a human, while the others are definitely alien. And then one in the middle looks like an Angara, one of the races from Mass Effect Andromeda. And we can also see what looks like an Angara in other bits of concept art, but I'll get onto that piece later on as well. Gamble has also tweeted a lot about the connection between Andromeda and this new game, both in his own tweets and replies to other people. Honestly, Gamble is quite forward when it comes to Andromeda. So if there is no connection between Andromeda and this new game, I will be very, very surprised. And I actually have a theory on how Andromeda and the Milky Way galaxy could be connected in Mass Effect 5. Most likely we've all seen this clip here of what everyone believes to be a new mass relay, which has raised a lot of questions. Specifically, why build new relays? If the relays are destroyed at the end of Mass Effect 3, they are eventually rebuilt. So why do we need a new one, especially after 600 years? I think this relay is for travelling between galaxies. I think this is how Andromeda and the Milky Way galaxy will be connected to each other. Although some people have pointed out that this looks like Cerberus colours, which it does. So what could that mean? I don't know. If you mine the data for this shot, it does confirm that a relay is being built, and that it is being operated by something called Green Dagger. In the real world, Exercise Green Dagger is a 5-day military exercise attended by militaries from all across the world. This could indicate that the relay is being built by multiple different governments and factions. Finally, this relay supposedly has a captain, a ship captain specifically. I'm going to probably butcher this name, but Subnavarak Shorai Zelan Jones. This name is clearly a mixture of a human and a Quarian name. Possibly someone who's either married into a Quarian family or maybe who has human Quarian parents, but I don't think that's possible in world, so the first one is more than likely. But why does a relay need a captain? They're not ships or space stations, they're just massive structures in space. But perhaps this one is. Perhaps this one is a ship. If my theory is right and this relay is for reaching Andromeda, it would be kind of pointless if you couldn't send one to Andromeda, because then it would just be a one-way trip for anyone who goes to Andromeda. Having one that could also launch ships as well as launch itself to another galaxy would make a lot of sense. But if that's the setting, if those leaks and my guesses are correct, what's the plot going to be? A lot of information suggests that the Geth, the AI robot species from the original trilogy, will be playing a major role. One of the original promo posters from 2021 shows a crater that very much looks like a Geth's head. Even the line going through the crater resembles the classic Geth eye lens glare. We can also see an unknown ship which somewhat resembles the Tempest from Andromeda, along with a few people approaching said crater and possibly a few dead Geth around it. We can also see a Geth as well as an Angara in this concept art of a bar that looks like it belongs on the Citadel. And with regards to the Geth, it looks like they're wearing a trench coat and standing in a very protective manner. Some people on Twitter have theorized that this Asari beside the Geth could be Liara, and the Geth could be their bodyguard, which is a possibility. Interestingly enough, the art piece shows off a lot of familiar races including Solarians, Krogan, Evolus, and some Turians and a couple of Hanar. Other art has also shown off a Drell, but we've seen no Quarians, Elcor or Batarians yet, and no new aliens as well. Although I do think that new aliens will be shown off in more of a proper reveal than concept art. But getting back to the Geth, we do have that previously mentioned audio clip of Liara talking to an unknown individual, who is in fact a Geth.
Exactly. The Council will be furious. Although they should know by now not to underestimate. I can see it differently. How did we miss that? Exactly. The Council will be furious. Although they should know by now not to underestimate human differently. That's worse, they must.
In the clip, Liara states that the Council will be furious and that they shouldn't underestimate human defiance. This shows us that not only is the Council still around 600 years later, but they are still butting heads with humanity. Now, a drop plotline from the original trilogy revolved around something called dark energy, which is very important in Mass Effect, and that it was causing stars to age faster than they should. This was brought up in Tali's recruitment mission back in Mass Effect 2, which greatly featured the Geth. Outside of this, dark energy is also mentioned by Gianna Persani in Mass Effect 2, and several times in the Arrival DLC. In the DLC, it's mentioned that the Alpha Mass Relay has vast quantities of dark energy that have helped to extend its range. Perhaps this is how the new relays will be able to connect to Andromeda. And speaking of Andromeda, in Mass Effect Andromeda, the Scourge is a big plot point and it is made up of dark energy. And just to connect it back to those aging stars, back in 2022 a lot of art was released, and all of this art was titled and themed around dying stars. Now this dropped plotline was meant to be very important to the main story of the original trilogy. It was meant to be why the Reapers were constantly coming back to the Milky Way and destroying all of the sentient species. In the original plotline for Mass Effect 3, it was going to be revealed that eventually a species would evolve to a point where they can use dark energy and that it would be very common, and this overuse of dark energy would eventually lead to the destruction of the galaxy. So the Reapers were coming back and destroying races before they could destroy the galaxy, with the hope that eventually a new species will rise up and figure out a way to stop the reliance on dark energy and no longer be a threat to the galaxy. So maybe this plotline is being brought back, but handed over to the Geth instead of the Reapers. But if that is the plot, and that's a big if, who will be our new hero? Who is the new player character? Who is this person? We know very little about our new player character other than this individual in an N7 trenchcoat is probably meant to be a stand-in for the new hero. I have seen some people theorize that they could be a villain. They definitely have a badass kind of vibe, but I don't think that's the case. I remember people saying this back when Alec Ryder was seen in the original Andromeda trailer, and I just don't think that BioWare would make an N7 the villain. But what can we learn from this N7? Well, they're most likely humans. N7s are part of the Human Alliance, and Mass Effect is all about humanity's role within the galaxy. Mass Effect is about the human spirit and our journey through the stars. Like with Star Trek, Mass Effect is a story of us. It's the story of our potential future. And with this in mind, it would be surprising if our player character wasn't human. Also, in the 2023 teaser, there were multiple messages within the trailer surrounding this N7, with multiple references to the Alliance. This is another indication that this person is associated with and is more than likely a human. Now the look here for this new N7 is very different from the typical N7s that we've seen in the past. Usually N7s are seen in heavy armor designed to take a beating. While this N7 looks sleek, like they're meant to be some sort of infiltrator blending into the everyday world. Also, their gun has a silencer on it, a possible indication that they are meant to do their job without being noticed. But if this N7 is our new hero, what about Shepard and Ryder? The initial 2020 trailer had an obvious reference to Shepard when Liara picks up a damaged N7 logo. Some people have taken this as confirmation that Shepard could come back, even after a few hundred years. But Shepard surviving the end of Mass Effect 3 is very difficult. In 3 of the 4 endings, Shepard outright dies. Well, in one of those endings, everyone dies. But in the Control and Synthesis ending, there is no body left. Shepard is completely gone in a physical sense. They do survive in some way in the Control ending, where their mind, or at least part of it, does survive within the Reapers, but that's about it. Shepard can survive in the Destroyed ending, but only if your galactic readiness is high enough, so it's a bit of a long shot at that, and that's not even counting the 600-year time jump that we are going to experience. I do suppose it could be possible that Shepard could return as a clone, perhaps as one created by the Reapers in the Controller Synthesis ending, or another one created by Cerberus. I also have this far-fetched idea that maybe Liara will be the one to clone Shepard. Maybe whatever big bad event or individual that is threatening the galaxy is so bad that Liara thinks the galaxy needs Shepard to save it again, which I do think would make some sense for Liara, but I really hope we don't see Shepard again, especially as a clone. I really don't want to rethread the clone plotline for a second time. Honestly, it's all a bit of a long shot, and as I said, I hope we don't see Shepard again. I know not everyone likes the endings of Mass Effect 3, but honestly, it feels like a natural ending point for Shepard. Their story has ended, and I think leaving them as a borderline mythical hero of the galaxy's history is for the best. As for Ryder, I'm very 50-50 on this one. If both the galaxies are going to be connected and Mass Effect Andromeda is going to play a part of Mass Effect 5, I could see Ryder coming back. I don't think there'll be the player character, I don't think there'll be a companion. That wouldn't make a lot of sense. I could see them returning in a supporting role like Hawk in Dragon Age Inquisition, or the Inquisitor in Veilguard, appearing every once in a while to lend a hand when they're needed, but at the same time being off and doing their own thing. The only returning character we can confirm is Liara. By the time Mass Effect 5 takes place, Liara would be over 700 years old. This was hinted at in the Game Informer leak, and this would put her in her matriarch stage. And from the trailer, Liara does look a little bit older, but we also know that Liara will have a new role. In a tweet from Gamble that I mentioned earlier on, Liara is still confirmed to be a doctor and a shadow broker, but also something else, something redacted. And I have to wonder, what is this? Is this something redacted specifically in world, or is this something for us, something that Gamble doesn't want us to see just yet? Perhaps Liara is a member of the council, an ambassador, or some other important political figure. It is common for Asari matriarchs to have some sort of political position, so her holding one of these roles or another similar role would make a lot of sense. Finally, as for when Mass Effect 5 will come out, we don't know. At a recent con panel, Ali Hillis, the voice for Liara, was asked if she'd started working on Mass Effect 5, and she says that she hadn't, and that the 2020 trailer that showed Liara was a complete surprise to her. So if Ali hasn't started doing voice lines yet, that could mean we are still a while off. But there's also the more obvious answer that she's just under an NDA and can't say anything at this moment. But I think it's the first one. I don't think she's started any work yet. Back in February of this year, Mike Gamble did confirm that the game was still in pre-production, kinda lending some weights to Ali Hillis' comments, and this means we could probably be waiting a couple of years before we see the game. But if development is still fairly early on, that could mean we could be looking at a 10-year development cycle again. And given the long time between Inquisition and Veilguard, BioWare should really be trying to avoid that. Obviously without compromising the quality of the game. BioWare has suffered a lot over the past few years due to poor management from BioWare's higher-ups, and specifically from EA. Mass layoffs, constantly changing the idea of what would become Dragon Age the Veilguard, moving Mass Effect staff to the Veilguard team, and then completely moving them out of BioWare or getting rid of them, and a lawsuit against EA from former BioWare staff in 2024 has caused a lot of issues for the development of Mass Effect 5 and for BioWare in general. All of these and more have hurt BioWare over the years, and they now have a reputation that they need to earn back, especially if they want to survive the future. We all know about EA being sold off and the possibility of the individual studios or IPs being sold off when the new owners take control. But since the deal isn't expected until the first quarter of 2027's fiscal year, there is a lot of time for Mass Effect 5 to be worked on and either released, or gotten so close to release that cancellation or major changes just wouldn't be worth it. But obviously this purchase has a lot of BioWare fans worried about how our beloved IPs could be treated. Due to the fact that Mass Effect 5 had a very small team, and that a lot of them were moved over to Veilguard before being moved on or let go, it seems very little work has been done on Mass Effect 5, which means if anything is going to be shown off this year, it probably won't be much. Mark Dara, a former member of BioWare turned freelance video game consultant and YouTuber, has theorized that 2027 or 2028 could be the release date for Mass Effect 5, while a few others have guessed 2029 or 2030. If I was going to guess, I would say late 2028 or sometime in 2029. But that is it. That's everything I've been able to find about Mass Effect 5, which is very little, as well as a little bit of my own guesswork. Hopefully we will get some proper information on N7 Day and get a good idea of what Mass Effect 5 will be. But what do you guys think? What do you guys think we will see on N7 Day? Maybe we won't get much information on the game, but we might get some news on the TV show. And do you guys even have faith in Mass Effect at this point? I do, but I do admit I'm a bit of an optimist about it as well. I really want it to succeed, so I'm just kind of hoping that it actually does and trying to keep the good vibes going. But I suppose we will know eventually. Thanks for watching this video, give it a like if you enjoyed it, and check back here after N7 Day for some new videos if anything interesting gets revealed. But with that, I shall see you all next time.